Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott, and I hope you had a wonderful Christmas Eve and Christmas Day with you, your loved ones. And if you didn't have your loved ones with you, just remember you are still special, and I hope that you got to have a good smile and a cheer as well. Craig Campobasso is our guest tonight. We're getting into everything from aliens to UFOs and everything in between. I love Craig. He is such an awesome guest. I know you're going to absolutely love him. But first, let's say hello to each and every one of you as we have SJ in the gold medal position, Race Fan with a silver, Tim Mothman and his goatee sharing a bronze medal tonight. Let's turn that up a bit. And who do we have in the chat room? Well, we got Kitty Caddywhack in the studio, Road Flare. How you all doing tonight? Brown Dwarf and Michael Morris, our attorney at large. Good to see you. Karen in the Woo Train. Jeremy Jones, Cielo, and Chris 716. Chris 716 will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Frankie B, how you doing? Hellboy, how you doing? Thank you for coming on in. Hi there, Eternity Eternal. Mel WD40 is here lubing us up for tonight's show, because you always want to go into a show nice and smooth when you're talking alien species. You don't want it rigid. It never feels good when you do a show without the lube. Thank you, Mel, for lubing us up. Ozzy Rob is here. How's them ham hocks? Ozzy Rob and his ham hocks will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Ethanol, Lee the Bee, Thomas Rock, JSCO, good to have you all here. Brown Dwarf, I think I mentioned you, but I'll mention you again. What the hell? It's my show. I can do that. How you doing, buddy? MJ, Pam Harris, good to have you both here. Purple-haired Pixie Laura, thank you for coming on in. And Gizmo, Fishing and Bigfooting, welcome to SOR Chat. Good to have you here. Digger Dog, Thurston Howell III, nice to see you. Carol Amerio, thanks for coming on in. Noble Patrick, good to see you. Hi there, Operation Shutdown. Algaray over on Twitch. To get warmed up for Craig's show tonight, he did 2,000 sit-ups in 2 minutes, just in case there's aliens. He had to get jacked up and ready for tonight. He's jacked. Trust me on that one. Mr. Cowley, how you doing? Frankie B, thank you so much for kicking off the Super Chat tonight. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you, Frankie. Very much appreciate it. Lisa Smith, Walter, Alien Critter, good to have you all here. Druith Banketh, how you doing, buddy? Merry Christmas to you and your family, my friend. All right, moving on. We have Rain. Nice to have you here. And, oh yeah, Al Gray says he's jacked already. We're already through roll call. I guess everybody's still on holidays right now. We're talking aliens here tonight. Reminder to all of you, the Super Chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Super crazy. How you doing? And, of course, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So make sure you go and check it on out. Promise you. There's nothing ugly there. You can wear our stuff out in public and actually be proud to wear it to more places than a flea market or a garage sale or painting your house. That's right. John Jackson, how are you? Flat 6, good to see you. Let's get the radio and podcast side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Craig Campobasso is here. Alien species and UFOs is what we are talking about with Craig tonight. It is going to be a fun show. We are in roll call on our YouTube channel as we say hello to Millennium, my man. How you doing, my friend? And who else do we have here? Free Your Mind. Good to see you. Illustrator BWC, thank you for joining us in the chat for the first time. Really appreciate it. Michael Alloway, thanks for coming on in, my man. Good to have you here. All right. Anybody else sick of this drone stuff? I'm totally sick of the drone stuff. Gamer Quest, thank you for joining us. And once again, the super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And our store is at spacedoutradio.com. Craig Campobasso is our guest. We're going to fire this thing up in about 10 seconds. So sit back, relax, enjoy, have your beverage ready, and throw those horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out, bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We have a great show for you tonight. Craig Campobasso is here, aliens and UFOs. We're going to get deep into the woo tonight. You are going to enjoy it. I know this because this is my favorite topic. Literally my favorite topic. So let's turn up the woo game. Craig is going to be here momentarily. Then in hour number 3, it is jam-packed. Why? Well, we got Swamp Dweller to kick things off. Little Timmy James will be here for the UFO report. It's Dave 101 night looking into 2025, and we'll have the weird news of the week. So, with all that said and done, let's get right into it. Craig Campobasso is a California native, found himself working behind the scenes for years on Frank Herbert's Dune, the father and daughter producing team Dino and Raffaella de Laurentiis, and director David Lynch were Craig's mentors into the business of filmmaking. After he apprenticed as a casting associate on Steven Spielberg's Amazing Stories, Raffaella later hired him to do casting for the popular Christmas movie Prancer, starring Sam Elliott. Emmy-nominated for casting David E. Kelley's Picket Fences. Craig has been casting for more than 3 decades and is an acting coach living in the Los Angeles area. However, when we get through all of that, we cut the onion and peel the layers off. What Craig really likes is some good old-fashioned aliens. His passion is to write stories that provoke readers into thinking, raising their consciousness, and expanding their minds about creation and what could be out there. Craig has directed and wrote and produced the short film Stranger at the Pentagon, which was adapted from the popular UFO book authored by the late Dr. Frank E. Stranges. After production, the short film collected accolades in September 2014. He is also an author of the Alien Species book. Let's just not mess around anymore. We got to get Craig on here. Craig Campobasso, welcome to Spaced Out Radio. I hope you had a wonderful Christmas, my friend.
I did. I bet you did too.
I did. Yeah. My daughter got me this great hat that I'm wearing tonight. And she made me open it first. Okay, like my daughter lives out of town, and my dad had come up, drove the 5 hours through the mountains to get here for Christmas, and he brought me this, and I thought it was so awesome because stitched on the front of it, it says tinfoil.
Oh my God, that is great.
Oh, I love this hat. It is
That's the best.
New favorite hat right there.
Yep, that's the best.
Absolutely. So
I'd buy
yes,
that hat.
Santa Claus was good to me.
Yeah.
I do have to admit. My feet are going to be warm for a long time because I literally, got like 10 pairs of really cool socks. So it's all
nice.
Good. It's all good. What did Santa bring you?
Lots of gift cards, which I like. I got a really cool Murders in the Building t-shirt.
Nice.
Which I really liked. And I got a star projector, like a projector that does the whole universe up on your ceiling. So I always wanted one of those, but I never told anybody. But, my friends know me.
I have to admit something here, bud. A couple months ago around Halloween, I got my better half a gift that she would love. It was one of those, I ordered it. It was one of those Harry Potter wands where you wave it at the lights and the lights turn on.
Yeah.
She's a big Harry Potter fan. I can't find it.
Oh, no.
It's in my house somewhere, and I cannot find it.
Oh, man.
No idea what I did with it. No clue whatsoever.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy. I don't know where it is. I've been searching now for 2 days. I just remembered about it yesterday on Christmas Day. And I'm like, where is it? I can't remember where it is.
Well, you obviously hid it so she wouldn't find it. So what are your usual hiding places?
It's not there. That's the problem. I know.
Wow.
No. It's like I'm a horrible guy for this, man. Horrible guy. But and I'll be honest with you, I've ripped apart my studio. I've ripped apart my basement, my working bench area. I've ripped apart my closet, all of my drawers. Cannot find it.
Wow.
No idea where it went.
Well, it'll show up.
I hope so.
It will. It will. So. Eventually.
I'm just going to hit you right between the eyes with this one. Why do you love aliens so much?
I never did, growing up and all of that. And then when I turned 26, I had a major spiritual awakening. And that awakening prompted me to think about what was out there in the great big universe, right? So I started going, to lectures and talks and gobbling up all the UFO books at the Bodhi tree when it was still alive, before they closed it years ago. And then I started going to UFO conferences, meeting the ufologists. I started going on cases with them. And then one of the things that I really loved was studying UFO contactee cases with face-to-face with extraterrestrials. I just found that to be the most fascinating because they what you find out is why they're visiting here, what their social structure is like, right? And then the little different things that they do. So when I was approached by MUFON to write this book, The Extraterrestrial Species Almanac, The Ultimate Guide to Greys, Reptilians, Hybrids, and Nordics, they knew about that part of me, and they knew about this other book series I wrote called The Autobiography of an Extraterrestrial Saga, which is a 4-part book series. So I started compiling all of the cases, right, which I had about 120 of them. And they told me I had to come in under 300 pages, and they just wanted thumbnail reviews because it was an almanac of the races. And so I was like, well, let me see how many I can squeeze in. But at that time, I heard one of Paul Hellier's last talks, and he said that he personally knew of 82 alien races visiting Earth. And I said, yeah, and for those of you that don't know, he's the former Canadian Minister of Defense. And I just thought I would like to honor him and see if I could squeeze 82 races in, and it just barely fit. So that's why there's 82 races, is just to honor him. And then, the publisher thought it would, do like fine, but it did really, really well, and it's still doing well. And so we decided to make it into a documentary, which is just being released.
That is awesome.
So it's available on DVD and also streaming. You have the links. You'll post them for people if they're interested. And we've got, a great host of people, one of who you introduced me to, which was Keith Andrews.
Yes.
Remember?
Yes,
Yes.
I know you. When you told me what you were doing, and I was like, I got the guy. Got the guy. Isn't he amazing?
He was great. He was able to cover the feline races really well because he's been in contact with several of the races and knew the names of the races and everything also that went along with them, which was great. And a lot of people, we got Chip Coffey, who Chip is, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Chip does the Mothman. Paul Hynek, J. Allen Hynek's son, does the Men in Black. He's awesome. Daryl Anka, of course, does Bashar and the Sassani. JJ and Desiree Hurtak do the Elohim, the Angelics, Octurus, and JJ does talk about the Draconians, which is very interesting. Sixto Paz Wells, who's been a Alpha Centaurian contactee for I think it's over 30 years, where he goes on their ships and everything. So he is a bevy of information. And then, of course, our beautiful Barbara Lamb and Yvonne Smith, who have regressed so many people. Barbara pretty much will talk about the hybrids. She's got 2 books out on hybrids. And of course, Yvonne talks about, the abductions and things. We've got, and then, the people that I also interviewed who are currently having face-to-face contact. They're in the film and showing actual photographs of the beings they're in contact with and tell you who they are and, what they're doing here, what their jobs are, et cetera, et cetera. So that is extremely fascinating. We have Kathleen Marden, of course, is Betty Hill's niece, and she talks about the Zeta Reticulans. And we get to talk about a little bit more about Junior, who a lot of people don't know. Junior was the head extraterrestrial who looked different than the Zeta Reticulans. He looked a little more human. His head was a little larger, right? And he had bumpy blue skin with a silver tint, and his eyes were like a gecko's eyes.
Oh,
right? So we literally took the bust that Betty Hill had made of Junior, and then had the artist go in and create the rendering of what he would actually look like with the skin and the whole bit. So, that's great. Alejandro Rojas, who's been around forever, talking about the ant people, which were the Allagash abductions. I mean, that is fascinating. And there's so many now new cases of these ant people that supposedly are also living in the inner earth as well. And then we have some hybrids. And and then we also have Chris Bledsoe, whose book UFO of God is on the bestseller list, been there for months and months. And he talks about the Lady of Light, who comes and visits humanity throughout the ages, right? And so we get to hear about his story there. He has an amazing story, and the Lady of Light is just touching a little bit on his story. So, and there's many others in it. The documentary is about an hour and a half long, and we weaved it together and just made it look like. It doesn't look like your normal documentary. I wanted, as the director of it, I wanted it to look very extraterrestrial, very space age. So everybody is in a virtual set, which looks really cool.
I want to ask you something here, because you said so much there. R. Keith Andrews comes on the first Friday of every month on this show.
Yeah.
And every month that he is on, we get people coming into the chat room or people hitting me up on social media. Why do you put this guy on the air? He's got no proof. He's got no evidence. He's just making this stuff up. The guy's full of it. Nobody has ever had that kind of contact. If he has contact, show us proof, blah, blah, blah. You've heard it all.
Right.
Why do you believe Keith?
Well, here's the thing. When people are experiencers or actually astral travel to other worlds, right? That's been part of my experience when I was woken up by 3 master teachers when I was 26. And at the end of 2 years, one of them said, it's now time to actually write the book or the books that you came here to write. And I want you to sit down. I want you to write and write and write. Don't stop. Don't edit. Write and write and write until you can write no more. Right. So I didn't know what channeling was. I didn't know what automatic writing was. But when they how you say it, they ignited my astral body, so I was no longer earthbound. So I started traveling to other worlds and seeing these other beings and sitting in audiences and listening to them speak. And then I had to speak. And this has been a lot of the experiences of experiencers, right? So when you're an experiencer, it becomes a part of who you are. Now, the thing is that what's interesting is that not a lot of people know too much about the feline races, right? And Keith seemed to have a lot of information about them, and I talked to him extensively, right, about it. And the thing is that the main master teacher that I had said, you cannot differentiate your experience just because it's physical. You actually learn when you astral travel as well. So that becomes a part of your makeup, right? So the reason that there's experiencers is because then they have a personal experience with it. They start to become more spiritual in their own self, like I did. I mean, immensely. And you just keep raising and raising your vibration. I look at it this way. Even though I know of all these contactee cases, right? I can't prove it, but it was a part of these people's experiences. And these are a lot of them were older contactee cases. Some of them are current, but it would be unless I met them, right? Exactly. So the thing is I think you just take whatever you want to take with you out of the information that's being presented. If it doesn't fit right, Dr. Frank Stranges used to say this great thing because, he went around the world talking about Valiant Thor, and everybody said the same thing to him, right? That, that he was making it up and all of that. And he said, look, just take the information, set it aside, and maybe in a year or two, or whenever you're ready, go back and re-examine it, and you might be in a different space. Now, when all of this began happening to me in the mid 80s, I literally, being in the film business, right? I literally had UFO parties, and I would have a ufologist come to my house with a VHS tape to show everybody all the latest footage of UFOs from around the world and talk about cases that were there. I literally, back then I had a tiny 1-bedroom apartment, and I literally packed it with 100 people. And I made giant vats of spaghetti sauce. I mean, I did the whole thing. And a lot of people were a little leery. Some were a little afraid. Some welcomed it. But a lot of those people who were my friends, they've come to me even years later and said, in the beginning, I kind of thought it was weird, but now I'm kind of like you. I said, well, that's all part of evolution. It's all part of growth. And when you start connecting with those energies, more and more of those energies will start connecting to you, right? Does it really matter if you believe what somebody is saying? Really just take the information and say, well, that's cool.
Yeah. I apologize for cutting you off there for a second, but I think one of the things, so we got about 90 seconds to go before we go to break. I think one of the things that many people who pay attention to this field on a daily basis are tired of is they're tired of stories.
Right.
Now, me personally, I think the stories are the most important piece of information, even though we don't have any proof. They're anecdotal.
Right.
But and even scientists like Gary Nolan have said, without the leads that we get from people who are having these, and then you see literally hundreds, if not thousands of people who don't know each other having the same experience.
Exactly. Yes.
It doesn't matter whether they're in Canada, the United States, in Denmark, or Thailand, China, wherever it may be. Yeah. There is something to that. So why are these stories to you important?
Well, they're important because it's defining an era, right? There's obviously, even though disclosure is really seeming to come to a head, the thing is that I've always believed that disclosure is going to come from the people, right? So if you were a very fully conscious society, like a lot of these beings who are coming here, who primarily a lot of them are human, by the way, that part of their helping us to raise our consciousness to the consciousness raising program is star seeds coming in and learning how to quicken their spiritual self.
Craig Campobasso is here. Alien species is what we are talking about right now on the big show. UFOs, aliens. You got aliens? If you don't, maybe you just don't know yet. We'll be right back on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned, everybody. All right, we're good. All right. Brian M. Bowden, your dreams are going to be shattered. Your dreams are going to be shattered. All right. 504 Fireman, welcome to SOR chat. Let's see. I'm going to read up on your experience here momentarily. And let's see here. Oh, we're caught up there. That was a good start there, Craig.
Yeah.
Yeah. The reason why I threw in that R. Keith Andrews question was because I've had my own experiences with Keith.
Right.
And knowing him personally, I know the guy's not a shyster. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
And so many people in this field can be shysters. And right. Every month, and it's not the main people in my chat room, but you get these people coming in and they're like, oh, this guy's full of crap. Take him off the air. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, you have no idea. You have no idea.
Right.
Sit down and talk to him. Don't just make an assumption over a bloody radio show or a YouTube visit. You know what I'm saying? Sit down.
I totally agree.
Learn the man. He's brilliant. Yeah.
I've sat and talked with some pretty big people in well, I won't say where they were, but they're pretty big up there. And they basically said, all the stuff that they said, if you times it by 100, that's what we know.
Yeah.
Right. They said, if you think it's weird, it's weirder.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
we don't even know the tip of the iceberg.
No. And honestly, I don't even want to know the tip of the iceberg. I think it's nice that if we progress in, the way we are, so it's not like a stunning shock or anything like that. But I think, so many people are just, they've all come around to really wanting to know more. Right. I have actors coming to me all the time now with their abduction stories and things like that. It's pretty fascinating.
I think it's important.
Yeah.
I think more and more people are going to come out. The only thing that really scares me about it, and I've said this to my audience, so it's not shocking to them, or what I'm going to say, but I think now that UFOs are kind of in the popular vocabulary, that we're going to see an increase of podcasts as we are now and YouTube channels. And I don't think we're going to get the proper information, because when you water stuff down a little bit too much, it goes flat.
It does. Yeah.
Everything goes flat. And I worry for my audience who is seeking information. Not saying that I'm the be all and end all. There are great shows out there. Okay. Fantastic shows out there. Okay. And even some of the brand new ones are incredible, but sometimes there's too much, and it's diluting the message. It's diluting where people can tune in, who they're tuning into, what they're tuning in about. And look, everybody has an opportunity to do this. It's that's their freedom to do that. And I'm not going to stop anybody from doing it, but I worry that the information is going to get watered down, and a lot worse information is going to be coming out because of it. I mean, look at this drone thing. Look how many channels have popped up all because of these drones.
Drones, I know.
Right?
I know.
So, anyways, we got about 15 seconds here. Thank you to Major Lee for the hat trick, Brian Bowden and Frankie B with the super chats tonight. Greatly appreciate the love and support. And Jason Shredswell, welcome to SOR chat, my man. Here we go. Here we go with the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Cruising along, talking aliens with Craig Campobasso. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate you tuning us on in for things that go bump in the night. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Author, researcher, movie maker, Craig Campobasso is here. Aliens on Earth. Let's get right to it, Craig. Do you believe they are here?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You say that very matter-of-factly.
I do, because I've been researching it for so long. And I myself, although I've never think I've met somebody, I felt when I have met a few people throughout my life that they weren't from here, because their energy was so different and elating, right? But I myself, being an experiencer, have had many experiences with different races and things like that. Like I said, traveling to worlds, learning about them. That's a lot of that is just chronicled in the autobiography of an extraterrestrial saga in that 4-part book series. It's amazing. I always wanted to know, like, Star Trek goes out there to find out what's out in the great big universe. I wanted to know what the great big universe was doing with Earth. Right. So that's a big part of my book series. It's a part of the ET Almanac book, also UFO Hotspots, which was the latest MUFON book. All the places to visit before you die or are abducted. That was my favorite subtitle that the publisher came up with. So. But I do, I've talked to lots of people who, who claim to have contact. Like I said, some of them have produced pictures, and you'll see them in the documentary, and, it's up to you if you want to believe it or not. I was really good friends with Dr. Frank Stranges the last 8 years of his life, who he was in contact with Valiant Thor, who is a created being, which means he doesn't have a belly button, which categorizes him in the angelic category. And, I sat with Dr. Frank for years, hearing all of his stories. And then I wrote a script and, with him, and he would give it to Valiant Thor to look over. And then I would receive my notes when I would wake up the next morning telepathically. They would be like this ring of things swimming around my head, and I had to get to the computer to get it all out. It was such a sense of urgency to do that. And I myself, although I have never met any of them in person, I have astrally and I have telepathically. But, one story that solidified me was, I think, around 2005. I was sick for 3 days in bed. I had a horrible stomach cramps, and then it got so bad I literally had to have somebody come and take me to the hospital or to the doctor. They tried giving me things, nothing worked. They put me in an ambulance, took me down to the hospital. They did x-rays, and they said that I had a bowel obstruction and they were going to have to operate on me the next morning. So my friend stayed with me, till the evening, and then she went home, and I fell asleep. And then I sort of woke up and was in twilight. And one of the vice commanders, Val's vice commanders, is a woman named Teal, who she had come and shown me what she looked like. As I call the mind internet. When you're meditating, they can pop in just like that. You get a little click in the back of your neck. And then it's like, I'm looking at you. I'm looking at her, just like that as well. So her name is Teal, and she was standing over me. And I felt all of these tiny bubbles going through my intestine. And I heard her say, when you wake up in the morning, you'll be fine, right? Well, then I fell back asleep. But when I woke up in the early morning, sitting at my bedside was Dr. Frank. And he said, Teal called me and told me to get down here to tell you that she fixed you up last night and not to make sure that you don't get that operation. And so I had them do x-rays again in the morning, and I said, yep, it's all gone. It's passed. And I got to go home that afternoon. So that was one of my great healing stories. There were many healing stories that were from that Val Thor had done. One on a pilot at the Pentagon that he didn't know, but he was walking down and he saw him, and this pilot was he was grounded because he had really bad ulcers, and Val just sort of touched him and probably said a few words to him, and Val had told Dr. Frank this. And then years later, I think in the 90s, this gentleman came to one of Dr. Frank's lectures and told him the story. And he said, and Dr. Frank said, yes, Val told me about that. And he said, well, I'm the man. So, so there's lots of these kinds of stories that help you to build your belief system. Right? Not that I didn't believe him, because, he was so articulate about speaking about Val Thor, about the ships, about the starship, about little things, because he would just say to me, he'd be telling me something, and then he would just say something like, once I was on the ship, and this person came up to Val and said this. Like, he would just get these little fleeting memories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
While we're on the topic of Valiant Thor, this is a topic that will not go away.
No,
it is one that probably the most often asked question that I get about it is, do you think Valiant Thor is still here? You have insider track on that.
Yeah. He is still here. He is still here. I do a little segment on Val Thor in the created being section in the documentary. he is still here, and he's actually in charge of our sector of the galaxy. And of course, because Earth is going through the shift right now, going from duality into becoming fully conscious, right? We're going to get into the fourth and fifth dimension. And he's here for that ascension for us to help guide us through. So he's not abandoning us. There is such an amazing angelic presence. There's a Melchizedek presence. I know a lot of people don't know a lot about the Melchizedeks, but I cover that also in the documentary. Melchizedek is what we call the University of Melchizedek. So when people graduate from a sphere like Earth, after you've gone through your lifetimes of learning here, you will go back to Melchizedek, and it's 490 planets across the Mira system, right? And they call them university schools, right? So you'll go back to school, you'll learn about what you want to learn next, and then go on and take your next incarnation, maybe on another planet that might be more scientifically based. Like, they don't call their scientists, they call them spiritualists, because they merged the spiritual and the science together, right? Which I think is really fascinating and interesting. But yes, he's here. He's still here. People can, they can watch the film at strangeratthepentagon.com, the short film that I made. I've also put it up for, if you want to download it, like the whole movie, you just click on watch the movie and it'll take you to the Vimeo site, and you can either rent it or you can purchase it and download it, because I sold out of DVDs because people just so fascinated with this story. They just love it. Now after the book, after, I did the movie, there is now probably 25 books written by Valiant Thor on the internet, which, of course, were old, from what I could ascertain, were old books from Saucerian Press, right? And then they slap Valiant Thor's name on it. So, because a lot of people tell me, I read Valiant Thor's books. I said, well, he doesn't write books. Right. So.
I get that. For people listening, maybe for the first time, and don't know the story of Valiant Thor, how did he get his name? Number one, and number two, if you could give like a couple minutes synopsis of it.
Sure. Well, it was told, they sent some precursor people here to tell our government that he would be arriving, right? And I don't know if that was in the Truman era or right at the Eisenhower era. I'm unclear of that because I never asked Dr. Frank that, but they knew that a universal emissary was coming, and that he would be put on a VIP status, and he was coming with what we call a divine design to help eliminate sickness, disease, prolong health, extend your life, also to talk to them about atomics and free energy, a whole roster of topics. So he came on March 16th on a Saturday, 8 a.m. in the morning, landed in an agricultural field in Alexandria, Virginia. 2 policemen went and picked him up, and then all of the Secret Service cars followed them straight to the Pentagon, where he went and met with the Secretary of Defense and the Undersecretary of Defense. Once he was there for a little bit, then they all went on a train, the underground train that goes from the Pentagon to the White House. By the way, I met many retired generals with Dr. Frank, who told me all about what it looks like under there and the train and, the whole thing. So I just found all of that fascinating. And that's where he first met with, Eisenhower. Nixon was late because it was his wife Pat's birthday that day. And then, there was all the other powers that be there, the Joint Chiefs and all of that. And he spent the first night in a army room on a cot until they prepared a Pentagon apartment, which is 3 stories down below the Pentagon. They arranged for all of his, his suits and everything as well. And what's fascinating is during the 3 years, they did talk about that. They talked about a lot of other stuff. And he, towards the end, Nixon and Eisenhower were for this proposal because it would really help humanity. But it was the powers that be that said no, because it would put doctors, nurses, pharmaceutical companies, all of that out of business, including electric companies and all of that stuff. So anyway, it's interesting because there was another being named Salganda that visited with George Van Tassel in 1953, who came and gave him the blueprints to build the Integratron, which was a building which was going to do just what Valiant Thor came with his proposal. It would rejuvenate your cells and keep you young. That's how they all stay looking young. Their ships, all of that, they all have a resonation signature on the inside that keeps them looking young. They live on the interior of planets because they can keep that resonation signature there as well. So just think of it, if you took a planet and you terraced it like a ship, right? And then you say, well, isn't it weird? They're not going to look out into the sky. They're not going to see that. Well, they do. They've created these things called synchrotron skies. So when you look up, it looks like you're on the surface of the planet. Now, how he got his name, right? It's interesting because I used to do a radio show with a former CIA agent, and he would have conversations with me on the side. He said, I'm just going to tell you that the story is completely true. And he said, but I want you to think of the name Valiant Thor as a title. And I went, oh, that's fascinating, right? That to me was very fascinating. So I never asked Dr. Frank that. I wish I still had him here to, because I was able to ask him lots of questions where he would ask the crew or whatever. And then, he would come back and give me the answers within a few days. But I thought that was very interesting that it was a title. And although in our day and age, it kind of almost, because we have the mighty Thor and we have all of that, it sounds like a Marvel, character. But if you really think about who he is, I mean, he is a Nordic, right? He is a Nordic. Is he the Thor that people talked about way back when? I mean, all these thoughts go through your head. Who knows? He's a creative being. He's immortal. He lives forever.
Oh, man.
I know. It just, one thought leads to another.
I can honestly say he lives a good life. Where is he now? You mentioned that he is still here. Is he in?
This is Valiant Thor right here.
Okay, for our radio audience, explain the photo you are
holding. I will, yeah. And this is Vice Commander Dawn. He has 4 vice commanders. This is Dawn. And this woman with the blonde hair, her name is Jill, and she's the wife of Vice Commander Zan. The other two vice commanders are Teal and Thawne, and they each do different things. They are a permanent fixture on his ship, which is right there. That's the movie poster, and then that's the blueprints to Victor 1 right here. There's the craft there. You can see you could get all these posters and things at strangeratthepentagon.com, by the way. It's they're permanent fixtures, but what's interesting is Dr. Frank told me that really what they do there is when they start out young, they live for thousands of years. So when they start out young, if they're working in the fleets, they're like the crew will shift out every 3 months, and they get a new crew coming in so that everybody learns on different ships with different commanders and things of that nature. And they all switch jobs so that they all learn how to do everything. So, he says, so they're a cog in the wheel. So if somebody doesn't show up, then something doesn't get done. So, but they all show up. And I always thought that was interesting as well. But I mean, I just, I'm waiting to make the big feature film. Everything is done. The movie's ready. And, I'm still talking to places, but, if there's a millionaire or billionaire out there, call me. It's ready to go. And it's pretty awesome. I mean, don't you want to see the feature film?
Of course. Of course.
Yeah.
I'll re-ask the question. Where do you think Valiant Thor is now?
Oh, he's stationed at Lake Mead, is where Victor 1 is stationed. So there's in the fleet, they're called Victor class saucers. He's Victor 1. Then there's Victor 2, Victor 3, Victor 4. So his flagship is always been stationed there near Las Vegas. When he first came back after he left for a year, he was at the Pentagon for 3 years, left for a year, came back, and then the ship was stationed in Henderson, Nevada, until they started building all the homes up there. And then they moved it out towards, at Lake Mead. So it kind of sits, the coordinates are actually in the book, by the way, of exactly where the ship is. I've gone out there. You're not going to see a ship, but if it's a calm day, you might see a bunch of bugs in a circle, because Dr. Frank always talked about, when they hit that invisible field, they go zoop. It's like a little bug zapper. So that was fascinating.
Do you know, now, outside of the coordinates, do you know the location?
Yeah. It's at Lake Mead, but I don't, it's sits out there like on a plateau rock. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So when I'm in Vegas in May,
you can go.
Can check that out.
You can check it out. Yeah.
Could you put in a word for us?
Yes, absolutely. I just got a call from a MUFON, a head of MUFON in a state director, who started having dreams with Valiant Thor back when I made the short film, and she started contacting me, and she just said that she got a message from him in a dream that said to come to Las Vegas. And she said, what does that mean? I said, well, then he wants you to go to where the craft is, because I heard that same message many years ago before COVID. And Lori and I went, and we were talking to a friend in the car as we were driving out there. And I said, yeah, I was telling her the story. I said, yeah, he arrived. He came on March 16th. And I went, oh my God, today is March 16th. So it was this thing. Not that we saw anything. I think it was more of just a not a download, but just being there close to the energy so that you absorb it even more, you know.
I
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
Craig, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. From Valiant Thor to more aliens and UFOs when we return on Spaced Out Radio. CraigCampobasso.com is his website. Make sure you check on out, grab his books for your library. Hour 2 is next. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. High Necessary Dialogue. How you doing, Craig? We got about 6 minutes. I'm going to put you back in the green room, and I'll be right back, okay?
Okay, perfect.
Right. Be right back, everybody. All right. We got 1 minute to go. Let's bring Craig back in.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been putting your links up.
Oh, good. Yeah, don't send them to craigcampobasso.com because that's my casting website.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I hit the wrong button.
Uh-oh. So I put the ones up there where they could get the books and DVD and Stranger stuff.
All right. Linda, how are you? Mm-hmm. And who else came in here? Let's see. Kimberly Burgess, how are you? If you have questions for Craig, please put them in capital letters. They're easier for me to find. And thank you to Major Lee with a hat trick. Frankie, Brian, and Pam with the super chats. Here we go. Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you for joining us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Dacriops. Dacriops is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Here's Craig Campobasso, movie maker, book writer, researcher, a guy who just loves his aliens. And he's here tonight with us. Craig, how you doing, my man?
I'm good. How are you?
I am excellent. Thank you so much again for being here, and Happy New Year to you coming up here.
Yes. Thank you. Happy New Year to you and all the listeners.
How many alien species do you think are on this planet right now?
Well, we know that Paul Hellyer said that he knew of 82. I've heard rattlings of 200 or more, but some come and some go. But some interesting statistics, let's see if I can find it, which I always found interesting, is that the Alpha Centaurians say that they know of 1,019,000 races, right? Intelligent races. And then the Urantia book, right, which is that big thick book. Have you ever attempted to read that, Dave? No. Anyway, that says that Earth's registry number in our super universe, which is called Orvonton, is 5,342,482,337,666. So the amount, I think just the amount of intelligent life it's endless. It just, I don't think anybody could even capsulize how much there is in this universe, other universes, going through the multiverses interdimensionally. And that kind of thing. We do know that some of the beings that are in the 4th to 5th dimension, they can come back into this 3rd dimension, right, and be physical. But as you start to get up there, you start to become what we call a midway, which means now you're sort of half physical and half spirit, right? So it's a different experience.
Do you believe that these alien species are combined with what we would consider on a religious front, angels and demons?
Well, I would assess that that a lot of them are angels, like a Valiant Thor, created beings and things of that such. But we also know that there are fallen angels, which I think, when you sink down into the abyss, far, 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 far into the darkness, is, then that's what we would consider a demon, right? But you have to remember I think what did they say our universe is? 1 billion years old, something like that. Imagine that with life that started in the beginning. And, from what I've kind of understood is that when a universe is set up, then it's set up with the beings and things like that of other beings that come here to help set up a brand new universe, right? That's going to go into a different experience than the other universes.
So with all of these species here, are they all looking for a certain something, whether it's people, whether it's resources, whether it's humanity and enlightenment? What do you think the overall picture is? Or is that too vague of a question?
No, the overall picture is it's a consciousness raising program, right? Everybody always wonders why they don't come and land and just show themselves. Well, they're not going to do that. They don't want to create fear. So what they do is they send starseeds who actually volunteer for this job. And what they do is they come here and then they incarnate, and they're born dualistic. They're no longer fully conscious. And then those beings, like, for instance, if you're from the Pleiades, those Pleiadian beings and all the beings at Melchizedek, et cetera, because that's where the program comes out of, is that they watch over you and they help you to raise your consciousness. I went through an amazing amount of changes in 2 years, right? Which I think might have short-circuited other people. And I've heard other people's stories as well. And, all of theirs are just fascinating to hear because, everybody's a little bit different in that respect. It's like, they're only going to give you as much as you can handle because they don't want to short circuit you, right? That type of thing. And then once you get to that place, then it's up to you, and really what it is, it's working on your emotions. It's getting control of your emotions. It's understanding, really what unconditional love is. So if you get into a fight with somebody, right, you have the choice to continue that fight and let it get uglier and escalate into maybe something that's going to do harm to either one of you. Or you have the choice to just let it lie, think about it, meditate on it. You don't have to fix it right away. Just let things go. And then you go and you have a conversation with the person. And look, if you both walk away in neutral zones, doesn't mean you have to be friends with them for the rest of your life. It just means that you just need to work through it so it doesn't stay in your body and in your mind and make your life it's like letting people live for free in your head that bother you, right? It's getting away from that. So really what it is it's about raising consciousness so that when we start to use our heart to rule our mind instead of our ego to rule our mind, then that's when the world starts shifting, which it's doing now. And then at a certain point, we'll rejoin that galactic society. And, this planet used to be connected to it and it was cut off a long time ago. So I think it'll be fascinating. I would like to be here, but I don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime.
In what you know about these ET species and what you have learned, do they want disclosure? Do they want the earthly public to know about them?
They do. Valiant Thor talked to them about that, but they weren't going to do it. There's a lot of other races that it was reported through the contactees that they approached their governments, whether it was the US or other governments, and that they wanted nothing to do with that. Right. So they want to just maintain control over their people, because look, once we become sovereign citizens, there's no more control, right? So then we become free beings. We think we're free now. Are we free? I don't know.
That's hard to say.
It's hard to say. It is.
I hate to put it that way, but it is
I know.
very hard to say.
Yeah.
But okay, what about the Greys then? Because the majority of people who do have some sort of contact are with the Greys.
Yeah.
And I know the majority of my contact has been with Greys. I've never seen a humanoid. I've never seen a reptilian. I've never seen a mantid being. Many of the beings that are popular today, just mostly Greys.
Right. Well, there's, just like in our humanity here on Earth, there's good and there's bad, and then there's pure evil, right? So it's the same in a lot of these gray races that are visiting. Some are absolutely fully conscious, beautiful beings. Some are neutral, just coming here on scientific expeditions. And others are coming here taking, if you want to call it raping people for their genetic materials and all of that to save their dying race is one faction. Another thing that I don't think a lot of people have thought of is, in these dying races, because they went so much into the scientific, is that they lost the ascension codes to ascend. So they need our codes, right? We're looked upon as sort of DNA royalty here because we can ascend. So when they have those codes and it goes through several different hybrids, they can regain those codes. If you listen to Bashar, and he talks about the Greys that are in an alternate reality on a world similar to Earth, and they're 300 years in the future, that they came because they were dying, and so they literally have a 7-step hybrid program, and I don't think they've gotten to the 6th or 7th step, though. They might have gotten to the 6th, but then when they get to the 7th, they will be fully human again, right? They will look fully human, that type of thing. So Daryl goes into great explanation about that, in the hybrid section in the documentary. But in talking to people who have been abducted by the Greys and things, they're all different experiences. They're terrified at first, because you'd be terrified if you open your eyes in your bedroom and you saw gray beings standing there. They look different than us, and it would be quite frightening. I'll give you one story. There's an agent that I know who confided his story to me. He said he would wake up in the middle of the night and it would be right here on his face. And I said, well, it's looking into your eyes because it wants to put you into telepathic hypnosis. So that you won't move. So whatever they're going to do with you, they're going to do with you. Right. So, another actress who starred in a TV series told me about, she lived out on a big property. Her neighbors were close enough by, and she woke up to bright lights outside. She got up and she ran into her daughter's room, who was small at the time. And a gray was in there and was taking her out of the room. And she grabbed her daughter's hand and she forbid the creature from doing it. And she won. So they didn't take her daughter. And she never spoke about the being ever coming back. But she said that was a harrowing experience. And then, of course, her neighbors called her in the morning and said that they saw, a ship had landed on her front lawn, because it was big sprawling places out there. So there's all kinds of stories. The only one that Yvonne Smith talks about, that everybody at first are very afraid of it, but then they come to learn that it is there to do some kind of good, and that they receive some good from it, whether they gave their permission or not, right? Some of the grays do not have permission, where others might have permission if they were a star seed. If they were a star seed from the grays or from the Zeta Reticuli constellation, then they could have done a pact with them, to take genetic materials that it was already pre-approved before they incarnated. So it was a soul contract. So everything is different. The one that was the most terrifying, that never was rectified, was with the Pascagoula incident. Right? And what's his name? I can't think of his name.
Calvin Parker.
Yes, thank you. Lovely, lovely man. Spoke to him many times. I put him in the UFO Hotspot book. And I talked to Calvin, I read the books. I talked to his publisher. And he told me that this was the most evilest being he ever met in his life. That he was so terrified and so frightened, but this being had visited him even in his childhood. So when him and his buddy were taken on board the ship, he said it was a horrible experience, that they had removed his pants and things like that. He wouldn't say what happened or what she looked like. He said it was a she. And he said, I will never, ever speak about what she looks like, because he was so fearful that would call her back. So I talked to his publisher and I said, so did he ever explain it to you about what she looked like? And he said, no, he won't talk about it. He just won't. He's just it was such a horrible experience for him, right? And then we have the Travis Walton case where, when he was on the ship, when he woke up, he saw two grays and that freaked him out, and he went to sort of fight them, and then he found some Nordics on board who took him to off that ship, which was in a sort of like a saucer bay. And they walked across the bay and got into another facility where they finished his healing there with Nordic beings. And then that's when he was put back down. So, he was terrified, everything all at first as well. And, but then he now knows that they brought him on board to heal him because, he had gotten so much radiation from the craft, because they did have a device that was on his chest, right? That he believed was removing, that kind of radiation. But those grays were not bad grays either, and they might not have been grays because I sort of categorize the negative beings are grays, the beings that are benevolent, if they're from Zeta Reticuli, they like to be called Zeta humans, right? Or if they're from another constellation like Cetus, they like to be called Cetus humans. For our reckoning of of what to call them, that kind of thing. So like they prefer to be called extraterrestrials and not aliens, right? Because to them, aliens has a negative connotation.
3 minutes to go before we have to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Craig Campobasso is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Craig, as we go to break here in the next half hour, we're going to take some audience questions for you.
Yes.
We hear a lot about the positivity of aliens for people who come on here. They aren't all positive. Some of them are not here being very kind to human beings. Where would you put the percentage at out of everything you've learned from good to bad?
I would put it at a very low percentage, at like maybe 5 to 8%, somewhere in there. Because basically, all of those beings are also here looking after people as well. But you don't know when a race is coming here, right? And they're abducting and things like that. I mean, I've heard horror stories about some things that have happened on ships and things like that are just terrifying. But primarily, a lot of stuff was positive. There's one guy who got abducted and he had eye implants. They put eye implants. He came to me and showed them to me, and he was so freaked out. I mean, he could barely speak. He pulled his lids up, and it was a whole apparatus that wrapped around the whole back of the eye. And he said, "They're seeing everything I see." And he knew that. And he said, "And I know if I were to go and physically get them taken out, they would put them back." Right? I mean, there was another person who got an implant, and it had gone wrong. It was looking like two metallic tongs coming out of the roof of their mouth. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things. A lot of people I know have implants, and some prefer to keep them in, and some, took them out when Dr. Roger Lear was alive as well. So,
that's pretty harsh.
Yeah.
That is pretty harsh. I mean, when you think overall about it, I mean, you hope that, people who are being taken are having some sort of positive encounter. But, the one thing that I've learned about this is that for every positive, there's a negative. The phenomena seems to throw both at you.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
That's probably, in all the experiencers I've talked to and the experience with even myself, that I've had, I don't think that they're all negative. I really don't. That's like saying every person on this planet is a good person or a bad person.
Right.
Well, we know in the USA, there's over 2 million people incarcerated at this time as we speak. So not every person is good, but we can't judge everybody the same way. You have to, I think you have to individual. Craig, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. We'll take audience questions next on Spaced Out Radio.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, we're clear. Parasolo, how you doing? Excuse me. It's a lot of fun so far, man.
Yeah, I'm having a good time. I always love being with you, Dave. You're awesome.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I love having you on as a guest, man. Love it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Anytime. You know that. You know you got a free pass around here. I got most of my audience knows this story or not, but last time I was taken was back in February. And my dad was there too.
Wow.
Yeah. I never ever get to see what's on the craft. Never. They don't show me. I get the feeling, that gravitational pull feeling.
Yes.
And then I'm out.
Yeah.
And this one happened quick, though, because I got to bed, got out of the studio, went upstairs, went to bed about 1 o'clock, or before 1 o'clock, fell asleep. And then I awoke at 2:09, or I had the dream that my dad, my cousin, and my friend growing up were there. And we were in a dark alley. And I said, hold on, before we go, I got to grab my phone. My phone was sitting on a stairwell. And I have an iPhone. And it was one of those old 1995 Nokia phones, the indestructible ones. I've never had that phone. And long story short, the gravitational pull happens. I drop the phone. And then I wake up in bed lying on my left side. And I know they're right behind me. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, don't look. And I started getting upset with myself because I'm like, dude, this is what you do for a living. Roll over and look at them. And so I sheepishly started to roll over and look over my right shoulder. And outside my window behind me, I saw this big white flash and the feeling of them gone. Hey, Rashid,
wow.
How you doing? And so I now had to go to the bathroom. David Lopez, how are you? So I get up from bed. The second my feet hit the ground, dude, I was frozen cold. Frozen cold. Like teeth chattering cold. I actually went and had a shower in the middle of the night. I was so cold. So I woke up the next morning real emotional because I had been having some health issues.
Mm-hmm.
And my chest on my left side here was like cold. The rest of my body was warm, but this spot here was cold. And I knew that something had happened to the good.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember my dad being there. I called my dad up on my way to work. So, Dad, how'd you sleep last night? And he goes, oh, I woke up a couple of times, but not too bad. Why? I said, well, what time did you wake up? He goes, this morning, 7:15. I know. I said, no, in the middle of the night, because I woke up at 2:09.
Right.
And he goes, I don't know. It was after 2 o'clock. I said, what, 2:05, 2:09? He goes, yeah, around there. I said, now my dad lives 5 hours away, 4.5, 5 hours away. So and he believes none of this crap. So I said to him, what woke you up? He goes, I heard a loud bang in the other room like something had dropped. Well, I had dropped my phone in the dream. He goes, Charlie, how are you? And I said, when you got up, what happened? He goes, I was really cold. So I went and got another blanket to put over me. And I said, and how do you feel this morning? And my dad is at the start of COPD.
Right.
And he goes, I'll be honest with you, son, I feel great. He goes, I haven't hacked or wheezed this morning at all.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you got to be kidding. And I'm just laughing. He goes, why do you ask? I'm like, Dad, you wouldn't believe me if I told you.
Yeah. But it helps you to coincide with the experience and what you.
Well, and that's exactly it. Like I don't talk this stuff with my dad.
Yeah.
He knows I'm all into it. He doesn't care. I think it's more out of fear for him.
Yes.
But he doesn't care, so anyways, thank you to Pam, Major Lee with a hat trick, Brian and Frankie for the super chats. Appreciate the love. Here comes the next half hour. We're going to get into all audience questions next. We got enough of them. So we'll, if I need more, I'll hit you up in the chat room. Here we go, everybody. Here comes the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder to all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Author, filmmaker Craig Campobasso is here, and we are having a great time talking alien species, and we're going to continue with some audience questions right now. Craig, how you doing? Thank you for
good. Awesome.
All right, we're going to get right to it from our first-time listener in our chat room, 504 Fireman. What are the aliens waiting on? That is my main question.
For humanity to evolve enough so that we will match their energy.
You think it's that simple?
It is that simple, yeah. Absolutely, because they're fully conscious, we're not, right? That's what these consciousness raising programs are here designed to do, is to, get the planet raised up and then moving forward. So that's really what it's about. It's it's like having, we've got guardians looking out for us that are raising us. We go from clods to gods,
I can see that. Yeah. Let's go to Sierra. Do aliens living among us know that they are aliens? That's an interesting question.
That is an interesting question. Yes, of course, if they're not from here, they do, of course, know that. But there are some, it's interesting because a lot of different cases that I've investigated, some left their counterpart back home when they incarnated here. And because this bond was so strong, eventually the being from somewhere else came back. And they, they got back together again and had children as well. So those children live here. There's a great story of Elizabeth Clarer. Do you know that story? Elizabeth Clarer? Yeah, she was a South African woman, and she was a starseed from Alpha Centauri, and she came in here. She was very articulate. You can look her up. She has stuff on YouTube. There's a book about her as well, Klarer. And, her husband back home came back here, and, they got back together because they loved each other that much. And so she, her consciousness raised quite substantially. And so she started talking about it, and she became pregnant. They took her back to Alpha Centauri, where she had the baby there, and the baby had to stay with him because of the organs in the baby's body and the atmosphere and all kinds of things like that. And then they brought her back here, and she finished off her life. talking about the Alpha Centaurians and talking about, who he is and her whole story. It's very fascinating.
All right, let's move on to another question here. Let's go to Raz over on X. Is it possible to have a live supernatural block against any human where anytime, anywhere to gather tangible empirical evidence directly with the phenomena? Like every single instance to do so just gets killed by some trickster force. Your direct observations of this is true?
Well, I think it depends on if you're working your, meditating on a daily basis, putting up, protection, all of those kinds of things. What's her? I can't remember her website. There's a wonderful lady named Lisa Renee, Ranee. She has incredible DVDs that you can listen to that will help you to put up all those blocks so that you don't get trickster forces, you don't get any of those kind of things. She is the most ET woman I have met on this planet, by the way. I will just say that. And I can't remember. Oh, her website's energeticsynthesis.com. So you could go there and look at that, Raz.
All right, let's move on to another question. Let's go to Jay Truthseeker. Craig, do you know Elena Danan, who said also had contact with Valiant Thor?
I don't know her personally, but she had a dream with Valiant Thor, right? So she didn't meet him in person. There's been nobody recently that I know of that he has met with in person. It seemed back in those early days, when he came back in the 60s and before that, he was much more accessible. I've met two women who were young back then. They were between 16 and 18. And one's father was in the military. And she said that she was brought out to the desert because they said they were going to talk to someone from another planet and they could ask him questions. And so she said she went out there and it was Valiant Thor. And she said that Dr. Frank was with him as well. And, they all asked a lot of questions. They were in fear, it was during the Cuban Missile Crisis at that time, right? And then the other one, which I found was interesting, that Valiant Thor was teaching them how to communicate with them through a ham radio, which was the first kind of EVPs, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's fascinating with hammer. When you do it on the hammer, you crank them, and then it comes through the stuff. So I've done it and connected with Victor One, and some of the vice commanders have talked through it as well.
Let's continue on. Let's go to Sierra. Isn't this story about Venusian people visiting Earth from Adamski?
Well, it is first said, I don't know how early Adamski was to George Van Tassel, but they were both said to be from Venus as well. Dr. Frank told me that they live on the inside of Venus, like they do throughout the rest of our galaxy, all the beings. And so, Venus is really sort of the planet that, that teaches unconditional love. I would assume, but I don't know, that consciousness is probably fully conscious there. And I know that was a stopover for Valiant Thor before he came here. Well, he was there waiting for for his directive to then come to Earth. So I always thought that, that was interesting. I would love to see what it would look like on the interior of a planet, that's sort of made out like like a ship.
All right, let's continue on. Let's go to Lenda here. What do you think the Nazca lines are for?
I don't know anything about the Nazca lines.
They're in Peru, all over the mountains, in shapes of people, aliens, dogs, cats.
Yeah. I mean, the simplest answer would be that maybe they use them as, signposts when they were traveling in the air. Yeah.
Could be. Let's go to Kim. What would visitors parked at Lake Mead be doing?
Well, they be doing their duties when they're not on duty. Dr. Frank says they go, there's a little town right outside of Lake Mead. They have old casinos and things there. He said that you could find a lot of them, there, or sometimes they'll go into, Las Vegas to see a show or do something like that. By the way, they don't gamble, they don't drink, they don't do any of those types of things. But, you would go stir crazy if you were on a ship, but the ship is 300 feet in diameter. It's double deckered, and and each ship holds 200 crew members.
All right, let's continue on. Follow up from Kim. Are there alien civilizations on Venus?
In Venus. In Venus, not on Venus. Inside Venus.
Are there humans in Venus?
Yes.
Are they abducted humans or are they volunteer humans?
No, they live there. That's their home.
Oh, okay. Now, were they born there or were they brought there?
They were born there. I don't know how their civilization started there, but, I don't know the answer to that. But no, there's been a civilization there for a very long time. There's a very heavy Melchizedek presence there as well.
All right. Let's go to another question. This one coming from W33. How can people compete with aliens?
Don't understand that question.
Well, I think it's in regards to, like, if they do come in and they may not be the good ones, how are we supposed to, do our thing as people?
Well, again, it's, if you're having any of those kind of troubles, I would definitely seek some help. The guidance will always come to you when you ask for it. I've needed it myself a few times, doing this work. And, there are people that can help you through it. I would definitely look up energetic synthesis and check out Lisa Renee, but also just make sure, in your daily meditations that you put up your shields and that kind of thing. She has great meditations for that. They're guided meditations. And man, when I come out of there, I feel like I'm literally floating, when I have a meditation room upstairs. So. Yeah.
All right. Let's move on here. Let's go over to Lee. Season's greetings, Craig. Can you extrapolate on Einstein theory of an under universe and the multiverse hypothesis? Do you think the two slit experiment is linked to quantifying UFO events?
Well, I'm not a physicist, so I can't answer that in those terms, but I can tell you what I've learned through other contactees and what I've been shown is that we are in a multidimensional universe, and that a lot of the higher beings that are coming to us are fourth and fifth dimensional, and they're coming here also helping us, and those beings are also the ones that that are incarnating on Earth to raise consciousness, even to help the consciousness raise a little bit quicker. A lot of the beings, from different societies that have come here, from Clarion, I know of some beings out of Lemuria, that they do come out and they do live and mingle amongst us. There's been several in these contactee cases, and they will go and they will live in a town and they will work and they will get to know who we are personally. And some of them, when they know that they're star seeds, they'll confide in them and tell them who they are, and just so that their consciousness will raise. But the Clarions, there was a lot of Clarions living here, especially in Italy. There were some living here also visiting here in the 50s, and currently in Italy. But they say by being here on the planet, because their vibration is so high, that it helps to raise up the area that they're living in as well.
Let's continue on here. Let's go to Nikki. How many human ET abductee surrogate mothers do you or have you worked with?
Well, I haven't worked with them, but they've been brought to me, and I've talked to them about it. One of my best friends was having dreams of a Pleiadian human man, and then all of a sudden she was pregnant. And I met her because her manager knew that I was into this, and her manager said, look, she hasn't been having sex. This is what's going on in her dream state, and now she's pregnant. And she went to the doctor. It was confirmed she was pregnant. And so, I talked to her. I said, well, what this feels like, I said, you didn't feel anything negative when you were with this man. She said, no, I felt like I knew him. I said, well, usually in these cases, what happens is they will take the baby at 3 months. They'll finish the incubation, back home. And then that man will have a part of you with him while you finish out living your life here, right? And that's exactly what happened. At 3 months, the baby was taken, and she woke up and she had discharge, on her nightgown in her bed and everything. There's many, many cases like that. And some with, like reptilian hybrids, and things like that too. It does sound like a racy film. Well, hybridization. Oh, are you muted, Dave?
No.
Oh, there we go.
I was just thinking here. How much do you know about the hybridization program that's going on?
Well, there's many different types of hybridization programs. There's one with star seeds, where genetic materials are taken and then they're mixed with extraterrestrial human genes, and then those children are raised, and then when the Earth shifts over, they'll be set all over the Earth to be teachers, because they'll be half human and half extraterrestrial as well. And so people will not fear them. There's other hybridization programs for, various reasons. We know draconians, reptilians, they have a massive program going on. They tend to sort of interact with a lot of Pleiadian star seeds, not for hybridization, but to mess with them, the darker ones, to throw them off their path, right? I've had many people come there where the father and two of the sons are literally night after night being chased by reptilians or are being chastised by them. And it is very frightening for them. So I said, look, you just have to own your power and they'll go away. And, so that's sort of what they did. And they did. And they're brilliant. They're brilliant kids. One of the kids speaks 5 star languages and doesn't know how. Yeah.
Weird.
Amazing. Yeah. I got a EVP of a pure grade A woman speaking in a foreign language. I gave it to everybody. Nobody knew what the language was. I gave it to the kid when he was here at my house, and he goes, "Oh, that's Pleiadian." They're telling you that they built a base around the corner from you. And then there was another woman that spoke that knew Pleiadian, and I didn't tell her about the kid, and she goes, "Oh, that's Pleiadian script." So,
Ethanol is asking,
yeah,
what life events can accelerate the raising of consciousness?
well, that's really all up to you. So really what you do is you just start owning every decision that you make, right? And if you're hit with any obstacles in your life, whether it's with a person that you don't agree with or they don't agree with you, then just sit back and examine it and try and figure that kind of stuff out. When it all started happening to me back then, really what I did is I would meditate and I would put that person in a ball of light, and I would just send them love, and I would just write them astral letters, and until all of that negative energy dissipated. And then I would then have a heart-to-heart conversation with that person. And then it was, it was just so empowering to do it, that way. When we master our emotions, it's, then we really use, like I said before, we use our heart to rule our mind, and we start to become fully conscious.
Let's continue on. We got 1 minute to go. Let's see if we can sneak one more in. We gained superior technology very quickly back in the day. Was this technology given to us by Valiant Thor?
No, it was done through, as I understand it, through treaties with the Greys way back in the day, which was microchip data. What do you call those? I can't remember. Some kind of fiber optics. All of those kind of things, transistor, all of those things were given by the Greys way back when. You have to remember that a created being is not going to give a society any kind of technology that they're not right, that they're not ready for. So, but this was out of his hands because the government invited the Greys here to get that technology.
Craig, hold on right there. We're going to go to our break at the top of the hour. Craig Campobasso, what a great guest he is. We'll be right back with hour number 3 of Spaced Out Radio next.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
We got 6 minutes here, everyone. Craig, just a quick question, not to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
My UFO guy seems to be ill tonight. He just let me know. Could you go to the bottom of the hour?
Yeah, I could do that with you.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. We'll do that then.
Okay.
I'm going to take a quick break. I'll be right back, okay?
Yeah.
All right. right, I am back. We'll bring Craig back in. All right, let's see if we got any more questions in here for you. Hearing audio.
Oh, sorry, it's mine.
Oh, okay.
I was watching somebody build this aquarium.
Like that. Yeah, please put your questions in all caps if you don't mind. It's easier for me to read them. All right. Thank you to our super chatters, Deborah Rooney, Human Carl, Pam, Major Lee with 3, Brian and Frankie. Very much appreciate the love. Hi, Hippie Deidre. How are you? Good to see you. And we're going to get going in 3 seconds. Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're having such a good time with Craig Campobasso. We're going to keep him until the bottom of the hour. Hey, sometimes you have to do that. We've got a great guest. Craig gets a free pass around here. He sure does. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Dacriops. Dacriops is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Now, normally we go to Swamp Dweller. We'll save him for tomorrow night because our guest, Craig Campobasso, is going to stick with us once again until the bottom of the hour. Craig, thank you for being here and staying a little bit later.
Yes, happy to.
Oh, man. Before we get to more audience questions, I want to hit you up on this. Okay. David Grush, the whistleblower, recently was quoted as saying he believes that the government has some sort of contracts with aliens, a couple species of aliens. He said that recently, and it got me immediately thinking about the Eisenhower created treaty from 1953, 54, somewhere in there, where he allegedly met with 2 alien species. Do you believe the U.S. government right now does have agreements with extraterrestrial species?
Yes, absolutely. There's, in Sedona, for instance, there's a researcher there that knows of 3 bases, 2 that are in the vicinity of Sedona, and 1 out towards Cottonwood area as well. There's, we know about Dulce. There's lots of stuff that happened there, good and bad, with extraterrestrials, which I believe were gray and maybe reptilians. I can't remember. I'm just blanking on that. I mean, there's a lot. And also in Pine Valley, in the Hudson Valley, where Whitley Strieber, had his stuff way back when, they were actually building a joint military base with ETs and the government as well. So it was well documented that all of those crafts were triangular crafts, or they called them manta-looking crafts. An actor friend of mine who was quite famous in the 80s, parents had a big farm out there. And so he said he would see these manta-looking ships come out at night, and they would sort of patrol, and they would look to see if there were any, anybody out there. So he said what he used to do is he would go outside and he would get, one of those reflective blankets and put it over him so they couldn't see him. And then he would watch them all come out and do their little flight patterns and things. He said one time he saw one completely up close, like literally, like if I was standing here, it would be like hovering right there. And he said it was so interesting. He said it had a turret on top that looked like it was alive for some reason. And he started, and then when it started to move, he started to follow it, and then it started moving a little faster. So he was moving faster. He got stopped by a policeman. And he said, he didn't want to tell the policeman what he was chasing, but finally he told him, and he said, "Oh my God, they're back." Right. So he let him go and that kind of thing. And he brought a researcher out there and they filmed it. It's somewhere on YouTube, buried deep. But so a lot of the triangles and things like that, like in Phoenix Lights, all those kind of things, those are joint, or they could just be our military, or they could be joint with that. Also Charles Hall, he worked on a military base right outside of Las Vegas, with one side was tall whites, the other side was grays. He tells very interesting stories about that in conjunction with our military.
It's very, very weird, because I think somewhere deep in the Pentagon, there is a Pandora's box information.
Oh, sure.
And I think that in that information, we would know all the secrets to disclosure. It's not just about ET contact. It's even the sub stories, whether it's Eisenhower meeting with ETs and cutting a deal, humans for technology, whether it's Bob Lazar working in Area 51, whether it's whatever all of these whistleblowers are saying, the 20 in back program, if you buy into that, there's so many things that are out there that we just don't know. Were there the secret Apollo missions after 17? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, there's all of these mysteries that we have questions to, but just never seem to get the answers with it. So I often wonder about that.
Well, it's fascinating because, when I was writing the Extraterrestrial Species Almanac, my mother told me when I was 12 that I have a biological father, and that my father, who she married when I was 1, who adopted me, was my stepfather. But of course, I only ever look at him as my father. And I thought, throughout the years, I would try and, find him just to figure things out. When the internet came about, I couldn't find him. When I was writing the book, I got a call from a genealogist who was related to me. And she was either my 4th or 5th cousin. And I said, "Can you find my biological father?" She goes, "Yeah, I can find anybody." Well, long story short, she found him. He had passed away in 2006. I found his brother, right, his half brother. And I went out to dinner with my newfound uncle and one of his 3 sons. And I said, "God, just tell me everything about it." I didn't even know what he looked like, right? I mean, so, and it was confirmed through DNA, by the way. And he told me something that blew my mind. He said, "Your father was in the Air Force, and he was in that thing called Project Blue Book." And I was like, "What?" I said, "Do you even know what that is?" He goes, "Well, kind of, but he was very secretive. He would never talk." He said, "My boys always tried to get out of him about, UFOs and aliens, but he would just smile and say, 'Yeah, some people say they're out there.'" So if I could have known him, would he have entrusted me with some of that information? I'm not sure, but the what ifs are amazing. So it's interesting, here he was working with Project Blue Book. I'm writing books for MUFON, right? Which is, he's in the government sector, I'm in the public sector. And then when he left the Air Force, he ultimately became the head of construction at Warner Brothers, building sets for movies and television. I cast movies for film and television. It's like it's in the DNA, right? Isn't that interesting?
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Let's go to some audience questions here. Let's go to Parasolo. Do aliens have religions?
No, they do not. They do not. Dr. Frank had this conversation with Valiant Thor on the very first meeting he had. And he told him that they, the fully conscious beings, they don't need it because they are in tune with the creation itself, right? They are in tune with it. So everything that, was made from a primordial atom up until everything that's out there, they are in connection with. So they don't need religions or anything like that. Although they do, they do pray, they do sing, they do all the things that keep you happy, and they make that a part of their daily rituals. So Dr. Frank told me, in the morning and things like that, he told me two of the beings on his ship, one being Teal and the other being another created being named Yanaya, who was actually from Melchizedek. That when they sang, you would just have tears streaming down your face because their voices were so angelic and so beautiful.
Did you ever get to meet Philip Kraft?
I think he lived by me.
He was the former editor of the LA Times. He worked for the Times for 30 plus years. Didn't believe in any of this UFO stuff at all. Thought it was all garbage until one weekend his wife went away and he ended up getting abducted, and they allowed him full consciousness. This was a couple of years before 9/11, and he wrote the book on it.
Yes.
And one of the things that he stated in that book was that he had asked them about religion and God, because these beings, the Verdants that he called them, he asked about God and whether or not God was real. And this species, according to him, had stated, yes, it was very real. And in fact, we found heaven. And, because the craft that he was on was an exploratory scientific craft, and that allegedly they found heaven, and they pulled up to heaven. I guess they found a good parking spot up front or whatever. And their religious leader walked in, and he was gone for a number of days, and then came back and said something along the lines of, rejoice, he lives, or something like that. It was,
Well, I would think that, they think of it as the one, right? Is how it's been through most of the fully conscious ET races, is that it's looked upon as the one, because it's the one that started the many, right? So within every one is the many, right? So not many, but many, M-A-N-Y.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Totally agree with you on that. All right, let's move on here. Let's go to Sandra. Do humans from other planets come here to live or try to live?
Sure, they do. They don't. Sometimes they come and they stay for a certain amount of time. Some come, interestingly enough, and they decide they're going to come here for maybe 1,000 or 2,000 years because they're going to study Earth and that. So what they do is they start a hybridization program for two reasons. One, so that they can then start to have bodies that can sustain themselves in this environment. And literally, they're studying us by becoming us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That
See, they
is
don't have
awesome.
duality. They don't have duality out there. This is a very unique planet.
Let's go to Kaysen. Do Greys work with the military?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
What makes you, where do you think they work? Is it Area 51? Is it other
Well,
places?
they say that, I think it was 51, and I forget, there's one other one that was that had that they were there. I know the name of it, but I can't think of it, and I'm not sure if it's Wright-Patterson or what. But I think some Greys are in Sedona as well. They're not the usual looking Greys that you see. They're much larger, taller, a little more reddish skin, that kind of thing. Because Linda Bradshaw at the Bradshaw Ranch, her son was abducted a few times out there on the ranch. So,
all right, let's move on to another question. Let's go to Vanessa, birthday girl Vanessa. Is Valiant Thor immortal? Has he aged or changed his look in all these years?
Happy birthday. And yes, he is immortal, and he looks exactly the same. Back then, his hair was short because that's how they wore their hair, and he had to fit in. When he's come to me in my, what I call lucid dream states, his hair is, a little longer. It's not slicked back or anything like that. It sort of comes to about here and here. It's a nice sort of chestnut brown, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Handsome dude.
Very, very handsome. Yeah. Dr. Frank tells me, yeah, women come up to him all the time and say, "You are so handsome, Commander." I said, well, I mean, he is handsome. I mean, he is literally, look at that perfect profile.
He's a handsome dude.
Yeah, perfect. Don's not so bad either. Jill's gorgeous. They're all gorgeous, handsome.
All right, let's move over to Jerry. Do you think the aliens have anything to do with these drone sightings?
I don't even know what the drones are, so I couldn't even answer that question. I mean, I was having radio shows call me the day the drones showed up saying, "Can you come on our show right away, talk about the drones?" I'm like, "What drones?" So I haven't followed it. I have no interest in it. But who knows? I mean, nobody knows. I mean, I've talked to people about it, but nobody knows what they are.
Right. Perfect. Okay.
And I don't think ETs would create drones like that. Their drones usually are spherical, right?
Let's go to Kim. Can you remote view the Lake Mead spacecraft?
Well, if they want you to, you can. So you would just have to ask permission and see, and just kind of go to, you could just project your thought to Lake Mead and do that. I've been on it in lucid dreaming and that kind of thing. So I do know what it looks like in certain sectors. And, the Teal teaches night classes to people from Earth. So she invites them up in their astral body and she teaches them. And then when they come back, they retain the information. And when they're ready for that to assimilate that information, it actually comes out. They also invite people in the physical as well. Dr. Frank used to tell me I was going to the night classes, but I didn't remember. But every night when I went to sleep, I would say, I really want to remember. So I started remembering, and I would see various things on the ship, and I would ask Dr. Frank about it, and he would say, yes, that's exactly what it looks like.
In the studio is asking, do you know anything about the Voynich manuscript?
No, what is that?
I'm going to find out. I've heard of it. I always forget.
Yeah, I don't know. It sounds interesting.
The Voynich manuscript. Nobody's been able to decode it. It is what is it here? Hold on. 15th century codex, known as the Voynich manuscript. Yeah, really nothing to do with UFOs or aliens, that's for sure. So we will just back away from that one.
Yeah.
See, this is what happens when I read the questions live rather than, pre-reading them.
Yeah. No, that's okay. I never heard of it. I'll look it up.
Yeah. 2 minutes to go here, and I want to say a big thank you for coming on, and especially during the holiday time when it's very, very busy here. We're going to get to one more question. This is from a good veteran of the United States Air Force. We call him Human Carl around here.
Yeah.
The big Cottonwood. Do you mean the old cement factory in Clarkdale where the tunnel supposedly ends?
I'm not exactly sure. The guy that lives in Sedona that's been a ufologist there all his life, he actually goes out in the middle of the night and he sees them taking stuff from one port to the other. There's one base that he said you can't even get near because they'll shoot you dead. But the other ones are so far back and beneath. I think one is way in the back of Boynton Canyon. I will give you one little quick thing about that. We would see lights and things in the back of Boynton Canyon. Now they've built this big thing with houses and stuff, and there's a guard gate, and you can't get back there, but you can during the day, but you can't at night. But at this point you could. When I went in the 90s, I took a friend of mine, and it's pitch black back there. And as we were driving, I saw a blue beam go across the car, and I slammed on the brakes, and I heard in my head, if you go any further, your lives will be changed forever. My friend, she heard the exact same thing in her head. And I looked at her, I said, are you good? She goes, I'm good. I go, let's go back to the hotel. So, I turned around and went back. But it was quite interesting. I didn't want to chance that one.
All right, my friend. Tell everybody quickly where they can find your movies and your books. We got 10 seconds.
All right. So you can find the DVD and all of the books. There's that one, and they're at autobiography on et.com.
Beautiful.
And
Craig Campobasso. We'll be back with Dave
This
101.
is Spaced Out Radio, and your host, Dave Scott.
Trying to jam too much into the last couple of seconds here.
I know, that's okay. You've got them both posted though, right?
I do. We got them posted.
Yeah. You're awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Dave. That was fun.
Dude, I appreciate you going the extra half an hour. Love you for it. Thank you for that.
Anytime.
Anytime you want to come on, all you got to do is ask.
I will. For sure. Well, have a great new year.
You too, my friend. You
All
take
right.
care, okay?
You too. Bye.
Could have went another half an hour with him. That's for sure. Great questions tonight. I apologize I didn't get to them all. We'll bring them back. We definitely will. Treebird, how are you? And who else is here? Ow. CS, good to see you. The Jakey 88, welcome to SOR chat. Amanda Carroll, how are you? Mark G, welcome to SOR chat from Milwaukee. How you doing? Baywatcher, how's it going? Kaysen, don't use the word liar in my chat room, please. The guest can only go by the information that they have received, and that's what they go by. The word liar is a very strong word. I hate to sound what's the word I'm looking for? I just find it really derogatory, especially when somebody just gave you 2.5 hours of their own time. I'm not saying that as a personal thing, but you can say what you want. You don't have to agree with the dude. But yeah, I just don't call a guest of mine a liar. I don't bring on liars. That's for other shows. I was going to try and bring Joe Monk on tonight. Craig went the extra half an hour. I'm going to reschedule Joe. I want to do a full show with Joe. I don't want him for 15 minutes. I want him for a full show. So Joe is going to come on January 10th, and we're going to get his full story. It's pretty cool. Vanessa, birthday girl. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Vanessa. Happy birthday to you. Yeah, Joe Monk's already in the calendar, so that will be a full show with him. Mike Bothwell, how you doing? Excuse me. Thank you to our super chatters. Deborah Rooney ×2, Pam, Frankie B, Lee with a hat trick, Brian, And Human Carl with a great super chat again. Thank you for the love and support. Travis William Moosetoos, how you doing? How's the hair tonight? Tell me it's long and braided, buddy. Tell me it's long and braided. Here we go, the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott, the Dave 101, coming up here momentarily. But first, I want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives by going to YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. It's that time of the night, that time of the week, where I yell at each and every one of you to get off my lawn. It's a Dave 101.
Open up the door, it's Dave! Who? Dave, D-A-V-E! What is this?
Dave's not here!
It's the Dave 101.
I can see you're really upset about this. I honestly think you ought to sit down calmly, take a stress pill, and think things over.
Leave the killer out! Yeah! Leave the killer! Dave's a mess.
All right, let's get right to it. All right, 2024, we're about to put behind us here in just a few short days, and 2025 is coming around the corner. So I decided that the Dave 101 this week, our last one of 2024, would be one of civility, humility, and hope for the following year. Yes, it is that time of the year where we plan out that next year is going to be better. Next year is going to be worth it. Next year is going to be amazing. And in 12 months' time, on this exact night, I will tell you all the same again. Why? Because we as humans like positivity. We do. We like positivity. So why shouldn't we? Why should we not take a look and see if the future is bright? I look at the UFO community, and in 2024, just like 2023, we saw a lot of hyperbole. We saw a lot of stories. We saw a lot of information coming out. Whether it was good, whether it was bad, it didn't move the ball very much forward, but at least the ball started to move towards what people deem as disclosure, even though we are still miles upon miles away from that ever happening. My look at UFO world in 2025 will be this. I want to see more transparency. I want to see politicians like Nancy Mace, Anna Paulina Luna, as well as Tim Burchett and others, actually use the word transparency for what it actually is, being transparent about the information regarding UFOs. Whether it's the drone spike, whether it's actual aliens, whether it's government cover-ups, crash retrievals, or non-human intelligences, or whatever acronym they come up next. I want to see actual transparency. If we talk about experiencers out there and say, look, we're tired of the trust me bro stories, we have to hold the UFO world and these politicians in the same category. All right? We have to hold it in the same category. Why do we have to do that? We have to do that because if they're talking about it and they feel that not only the American people, but the people of the world have a right to know, Then let's get to the story. Tell us about what we need to know. Now, granted, they are going to hold a lot of national security statements on that saying, hey, we cannot do this. We got to keep these secrets for the national security because of the Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians, whoever it may be. That's not what it's about. This is about humanity. This is a subject of UFOs that will affect every single person on this planet. You've heard me say that before, and I will say it again, that this is about everybody from the concrete jungles of Tokyo, New York, Toronto, London, France, Moscow, to the jungles of Brazil, the jungles of Africa, the jungles of Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, wherever they may be. Everybody, whether you are someone who is elderly or whether you are someone who has a newborn, every person is going to be affected by this. My dream is that people actually start to provide more stories. I don't want government stories because this is not a governmental issue. This is not a military issue. This is a humanity issue. My dream is that we can expand this topic to understand that there is more to this than the whistleblowers saying nothing in front of a congressional panel like what happened last time. We need to know more. My goal and my dream is that we do not rely just on videos anymore. That is my warning. Why is it a dream? Because I love a personal story. I love hearing from our audience members, like in our chat room tonight, who came out and said, I really need to tell somebody my story. That's what this is about. This is about people. People need to be heard. And that's what we need to do for this subject. We don't need military encounters of threat narratives, of drones in New Jersey, of people saying the airspace is not safe. They are going to kill somebody one day. Yeah, well, the fork in my house may kill somebody someday. But for now, it's in the drawer in its little fork spot, ready to come out for dinner one night and then go in the dishwasher. Everything has a purpose. What I want to see is I want to see a community also grow together. There is so much divide in this community, and most of it takes place on X, that really every time we take a step forward, we take 2 steps back. Why? Because we don't want to believe. We want to crucify. We want to crucify the deities of ufology that have been accused of being liars, cheats, and thieves. Whether they are or not is of personal opinion. Have we caught some of them making up stories like unidentified lighting phenomena? Sure we have. All right. But the one thing that we need to start doing too is we need to start bringing people together. The researchers have to bond with the experiencers. The experiencers need to bond with the government. It all needs to come together. Will that happen in 2025? Probably not. Probably not at all. But I have hope. I have hope that with the integration of AI and the way that their AI technologies are becoming more and more realistic, that we are not going to be able to use videos anymore. Why can we not use videos anymore? Because we're not going to know what is real and what is fake. This is where the experiencer, whether you're a military pilot or somebody who works at the local car dealership, we need to take those stories a little bit more serious. They're not just stories. There is evidence there. It may be anecdotal, but anybody who researches knows you need a lead in order to start your research. When I'm out at my Bigfoot area, how do I know I have a Bigfoot area? I find a footprint, or I find something that leads me to that area back again. That's what we need to do. That's what we need to accomplish in the in the UFO world. We need to bring it together. Start tying up some of those loose ends, tighten the knots, and for God's sake, stop insulting rather than trying to work together and see someone else's point. The egos of the scientific world, the military community, and the debunkers needs to go away. The experiencers need to start bringing proper stories to the table. That's what Grant Cameron does. That's the philosophy that I go by. Yeah, the story may be woo. You may have a story of somebody claiming to have flown the craft. But when you research it and you line it up with other people who've flown craft, guess what? It gives you a pattern. Patterns are important. Now, for the drone situation, my goal for 2025 is to finally see these things go away. That's what I want to see, is see the drones go away. I do not believe they are alien. That is my personal opinion. Am I saying all of them are of the U.S. government? I would say at least 99%. But we also know that UFOs always seem to keep an eye on things. So yes, there could be some UFO sightings there. The majority of these videos that we see, I think, are people misidentifying. Now, I realize that may be an unpopular opinion, but in order to move on, we have to get through this as well. Let's switch over to the cryptid community, where the chase for Bigfoot continues. Blood and guts, or something a little bit more supernatural. I spoke at a conference earlier in 2024 about this. Day 1 had all the scientists. Day 2 had people like me. And the one thing that I would like to say to the community of Bigfoot, we don't know. We don't know what it is. We need to stop bringing up factual information when there is no hard facts about it. Can science help? Sure it can. Absolutely. 100% science can help. But if you're trying to debunk things just because you don't believe in them, we're never going to solve anything. We have to keep an open mind about what this creature is, because until we actually get a body, a true body, not the ones that are allegedly in the Smithsonian or government bunkers 25 stories down, hang a left, turn right, go past the Dunkin' Donuts, because that's America, not Canada, with Tim Hortons. And then open the little door on the left with an eyeball retina scan. Then we can view the body. Yeah, no, that's not happening. It's not happening. We don't know what it is. For the paranormal world, my hope for 2025 is that the paranormal world starts to relax and enjoy a little bit. All right. I know you've been third on the totem pole for a while here, paranormal people, because UFOs took over, cryptids became more popular, and your days of being popular television have kind of gone down the tube a little bit. But that's okay. It's still great television. But my hope for people in 2025 for the paranormal world is that you respect people's properties. You respect the investigation, respect the spirits, and enjoy yourself a little bit more. It's not about the television show. It's about what happens to your experience. If we could do that, then the field grows better. Don't be one of these teams who tries to take over a city or a territory, blocking other teams from going into buildings. Nobody wants that. That's just being a jerk. Those days are over. I can tell you this. There are certain paranormal people I won't bring on this show because that's exactly what they do. It's not worth my time to give them publicity if they're going to try and hack everybody else. It's the paranormal. Start having some fun with it. Start enjoying it. And once again, there are no definitive answers. Yes, we need more science into it. I wish the scientific community that looks into UFOs would look into the paranormal just as hard. But let's just come together. And my final word is for my audience, whether you're listening on our terrestrial radio stations or whether you are listening on YouTube or our podcast. I hope you've enjoyed the stories we brought you in 2024. A lot of those are going to continue in 2025. We're going to stay on the UFO story. We're going to stay on the Bigfoot story. And we're going to bring you some paranormal as well, because the numbers show what you want to hear. We plan on having a very fun year here at Spaced Out Radio, and I want you guys to be a part of it. We grow together. And as long as I'm having fun and you guys are having fun listening in, it's going to make life so much more bearable heading into a new year that is filled with political strife, tensions, and conflicts, and so much more. Let's use this time, these 3 hours a night that we have, to relax, chill, and just enjoy the woo. And that's your Dave 101.
As God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is the latest bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News.
Loud noises!
I am good at things, fighting and reading the news.
It's time once again for Spaced Out Radio's Weird News of the Week.
All right, let's get right to it. A woman revealed that she made a complaint to an HR department after receiving a baffling Secret Santa gift from an anonymous coworker. Taking part in your work's annual Secret Santa can be a real hit or miss depending on who pulls your name out of the hat. I got a Bigfoot coloring book in crayons. I loved it. Well, some people aren't so lucky. Maybe you'll get a gift or maybe not. Either way, it's the thought that counts. However, the old saying only goes so far, as one woman received a gift so baffling she ended up reporting the situation. What could the gift be that was so disgusting that it warrants a trip to the Human Resources Department? Something completely offensive or inappropriate? Turns out it was something even more strange. Unsure if she was being ungrateful or had a valid point with her reaction, the woman sought a second opinion. Taking to an online forum, the woman shared each of the gifts that she received alongside the comment, "Got my Secret Santa today from work. To be honest, I'm disgusted by it." The gifts included chocolate, which were out of date, manky old nail varnish, and socks which appeared to be worn out. She says, "I'm really disappointed by it and extremely confused, to be honest." The woman wasn't alone in her reaction either. Very many users overwhelmingly agreed that it was unacceptable to gift a colleague used and out-of-date items, which, to be fair, the gift is so bizarre that it feels like a wind-up or a part of an elaborate practical joke. The socks even had a hole in them. Yeah. Practical joke or serious present aside, the original poster revealed later in the thread that she had spoken to HR about the gift. Management knows about it, and they are just as disgusted. "I would genuinely rather have had a cheap bar or chocolate than this," she replied. Oh, ungrateful. She's either really hated in her workplace or somebody scrambled because they forgot about it and threw a bunch of things together that were in their drawers and then made off with it. That's what happened. A Christmas photo of NASA astronauts who are still stranded on the International Space Station until next year has everybody wondering the same thing. It's been a long time now for Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams, who've been stuck in space since June of this year. The pair initially were only supposed to be on their first flight for 8 days, but of course, Boeing screwed up. Yep. Couldn't get it off. Yep. They didn't do too well. In the meantime, they continue to give updates on their condition, how they've been up in space so far. Fans are concerned about the weight loss. Well, not much to eat up there. Yeah. And were they be able to do Christmas? Well, if you look at the photos, they all seem to be wearing Santa hats, got a Christmas tree. So somebody actually asked, how are you able to get Christmas decorations up in space? Now, many people are believing this is a conspiracy, that maybe this International Space Station is really on Earth. A third person asked, how much did it cost to send up Christmas hats? See, there's no imagination here. People should know that Santa Claus probably delivered them, right? But either way, people are now saying this is a conspiracy. The International Space Station is fake. It's on Earth. It's probably underwater. But yes, apparently there are Christmas hats in space. This is driving people nuts. Finally, even though Nostradamus has been dead for 458 years, it's prediction time. The French astrologer checking on in once again from the heavens above. And before 2024 comes to a close, there's still 3 big predictions which are yet to supposedly happen. What are they? Well, a war in England and the return of the plague. Oh, God, masks are coming back. Conflict in global politics, believing that great powers will clash, and some think this is a nod to what is currently going on and the threat of nuclear war. And the Ukraine and Russia war will come to an end. Let's hope so on that one. Let's really hope. End of the world doesn't look like it, according to Nostradamus. He also predicts a massive asteroid destroying the world, but we don't think it'll happen. From the cosmos, a fireball will rise, a harbinger of fate. The world bleeds. Well, we'll see if it happens. As we say goodnight to all of you, and hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Ball, rocking in the background. His little brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everyone listening at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LG, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, Space Travelers Club, and on X, hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SLR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, make a mistake. We're watching. Neo the Night, Mr. Bumblefoot. We need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. All right. Hi, Bombshell Bomber. Hi, Kurt M. What else? Oh, look at that. It's Sweet Robbie G. Right there. Sweet Robbie G. Deboruni with a hat trick. Thank you, Debs. Where's Kaysen? Kaysen, are you still around? Are you still around, Kaysen? Paging, Kaysen. Paging, Kaysen. Excuse me. Where is he? Did he already leave? Oh, okay. Yeah. He didn't like the whole Davocracy thing. Where's the free speech, man? Where's the free speech? No free speech. It's Dave's room. Thinking about growing my hair again. What number am I on the Scoville scale? My hottest hot sauce is about 1.4 million Scoville units in my fridge. I did see your get off my lawn turkeys there, Deboruni. I did see that. That was funny. It made me laugh. Has everybody wished Vanessa a happy birthday? If not, you can't anymore because it's not her birthday. It's 12:01 Pacific. You lost out. I'm not going to grow it out long again. Maybe I'm going to put some length in it. It's getting there. A little bit longer. Ozzy Ange, how are you? No, I'm just not feeling the long hair right now. I'm going to grow it again, like full, just not right now. Deals with my daytime job stuff. The new owners are a little sticky about stuff like that. What did I get the little dog for Christmas? Treats. Treats. Mm-hmm. Speedy Romans, how you doing? No, Dave's not doing the mullet. Hi, Christine Lynn. Blueth Cruiseth. How you doing? Bombing Shell Bomber. Thrill Savage, welcome to SOR Chat. I think that's the beginning right there. Looks like it. Boob to Joe's beard. They don't mind beards being trimmed. They don't mind it being long, but nothing too out of control, shall we say. My goal for 2025 is to have one job. That's all I want is one job. Just one, not two. Oh, those are filthy. Oh my. No wonder I can't see very well. All right, everybody. Big thank you for tonight. We're going to close out the week tomorrow. Paranormal ladies. We got Brandy and Krista from Blondes and Booze. It's not booze as in drink. It's called BOOS. So we'll see you guys tomorrow night. Big thank you for Deb with a hat trick, Lee with a hat trick, Pam, Richard, Brian, Frankie, and Human Carl. Thank you for the love, everybody. We will see you all tomorrow night. Bring a friend. Tell them to hit subscribe. See you soon, everyone.
Healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.